I intentionally went out to one of the farthest planets, solar systems, in the Starfield,
Yeah.
and there's still facilities that look just like this.
Yep. Yeah, my joke was going to be, oh, the quest where you have to go to that place and kill bandits. I remember that quest.
You guys have noticed, because I talk about it at the beginning of the review, of like Bethesda going out and saying, actually, you're just not understanding this game. It's not that it's bad or boring, it's just that that's what space is. It's bad and boring.
It's good that we're on space combat here, that I was actually getting kind of just ramrodded by everything and anything because I wasn't realizing like certain basic fundamental things like that.
Hey all, this is Nick Raven with the Nth Review, and we're doing something very special today. I've taken 6 segments of my raw footage from my Starfield review, and I've invited some friends to talk about the game. This is very much a supplementary feature to my review, so if you haven't watched that yet, I'd highly advise you do, but if not, I mean, you'll have your opinions either way. With all that said, let's get to it. Well, hello everyone. This is Nick Raven, the Nth Review. I've got my pals on the line. Let's start off with Baldy. Mr. Baldy, how you doing?
Howdy. It's Baldy here. I'm normally tag teaming alongside our consummate host. Just kind of into a little bit of everything. Don't have a proper niche like the rest of these fine gentlemen, but they do what they can, and they are honoring me by letting me jump in today. And let's throw it over to Shotsky and let him introduce himself.
Hello, I go by Shkatsky, and I run the Primordial Chronicles YouTube channel. And I usually talk about video games, but I haven't done it for like a year or more, so it's hard to say what I'm exactly doing on that channel, but my plan is to focus on essays and, you know, deeper deconstructions of video games and maybe some older stuff. Let's go to Medium.
Howdy, howdy. I'm high-functioning medium. Similar to Shkatsky, I do a lot of retrospectives, essays, things of that nature on horror, RPGs, and shooters, both old and new. And excited to be here to talk about this intersection of a lot of those things, primarily the shooters and the RPGs.
Yeah, have you guys heard of this little indie shooter RPG thing called Starfield? As we're coming down the minecart here, I want to let you know we just watched the first 7 Star Trek movies. So there's the sequence where we're going to the mines and they got the mining lasers, and it looks like Repente, which I mentioned in the review. And it's like my Starfield review. It's
it all comes back to Starfield.
Everything comes back to Starfield. I've been able to make a lot of Starfield references. What did you guys think of this section versus the horse-drawn cart from Skyrim?
I didn't
the only
think
section in Starfield that has like proper facial animation work, so that was nice.
Yeah, I wasn't too as impressed. I mean, you can't do much besides turn your head, and everything feels real slow. It's almost like the producer giving you the signal of, okay, you can move in 3, 2, 1. Now you can move. So I'm just waiting to get done.
We're live.
Yes, we are live. Absolutely. We're at the point where we're walking out into the mine right now. So I hope everyone's there.
Yeah, we're all here.
People didn't like how linear and small this little vestibule was compared to previous games. I thought it was here. Let me just say this outright. I enjoyed the game, and this is very supplementary to my review. Yeah, here's the Repente mining laser thing going on as soon as he starts blasting again. Start blasting, come on.
You're live.
I thought it was fine. I thought this part was fine.
He's waiting for his countdown.
Yeah, there we go. Finally. But I think just as far as this as an introductory bit where they're kind of showing, even though my biggest thing is that they emphasize this as the first thing you see and you play in this game, and then you kind of don't mine ever.
You don't really need to. It's optional.
It is, but even if you do get into it, it's like, where's the beef? Yeah. I don't know if you guys got into mining. Medium, did you get into any mining at all?
I'm hurting really bad because I got rid of my laser because I hadn't used it in so long. And
Oh
I'm
my
scouring
God.
the entire universe for it.
I actually fell into the trap of
great.
I kept trying to use it as a weapon, because you'd think, like, if this thing
Yeah.
is tenderizing
Mhm.
rocks, like, I should be able to use it as a weapon, especially when you're up at top side taking down that research lab. It's like, I should be able to use this mining laser and torch fools, and you can't really do that.
To me, it looks so boring and haphazard. There's 4 or 5 people seemingly randomly shooting a laser into the wall. The cool machines aren't moving. Nothing else really goes. It doesn't really look legit. So to me, it's clearly a set piece so they can say,
Yeah.
oh, look, there's one laser left in the crate. Why don't you grab it and do some lasering?
Right.
You can actually cut in
Yeah, that was
here
kind
as
of
a
my fault,
contrarian,
too. Yeah,
you know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
because
Shkowski?
yeah,
Yeah.
like out of the 26 hours that I only spend in this, I spent 10 hours on Mars. I know. And like 6 or 7 of these hours were spent on some, bullshit randomly generated, side quests that were mainly consisting of basically mining some shit and then delivering to some, random guy in some random ass base somewhere.
Right.
And that was what I mostly did. And I was like, okay, this is fine. Maybe I'll suffer through it and somehow, start enjoying it. But, I clearly did not.
It takes there's so much of this game, and it's something I talk about in review, is that they tease the potential of it, or what maybe you could do, but it seems like you had all these different silos at Bethesda that would implement something, and then they kind of just tied it all together in the end. Like, I came up with a cool mining mechanic. What do we do with it? Well, nothing sophisticated. So
Right.
let's just, you're mining for X number. You're doing a fetch quest. Like,
Yeah.
these rocks are the beaver pelts of Starfield, where you have to turn in 20 so
Right.
that you can, I don't know, complete someone's exclamation mark.
And to
Yeah,
be fair,
but
there was a
in
giant
Oblivion,
machine.
if you would bring those 20 pelts to a guy and then kill him, you at least would be visited at night by a Brotherhood,
Yeah.
person. Yeah.
And it felt more cohesive, I guess, in older games where it was smaller.
Dark Brotherhood, sorry.
Yeah, you got it. We're headed up to the point
We got
where
there.
you get the first relic, and this is supposed to be the big. Did anyone else finish the main story?
Nope.
No, I'm still working on it.
Okay, it sucks. I don't like it at all.
You trying
I
to
think
tell me but that's the main story is not good? That blows me out of the water.
yeah, and
I actually liked
It's really
Fallout 4's.
awe-inspiring.
yeah, I didn't mind Fallout 4's. It's hard to believe that it's been 9 years, 8.5 years since I did my Fallout 4 review. But I did a review of Fallout 4 back in the day, and I liked Fallout 4, despite itself sometimes. But I got
I
to
didn't
tell
like
you,
the game, but
I-
the story
I-
was fine.
yeah, you didn't like the game Fallout 4?
Yeah.
Oh,
I didn't like,
pause
that
here.
whole thing where,
hang on, we got to pause.
And by pause, I mean this section right here drives me crazy.
Why does it
So
do
we're-
that?
Okay, so we're now. Granted, this is about the farthest they've drilled so far, but you're trying to tell me that the artifact is just like left almost like in its own room, like with a walkway towards it, and no one's decided to fool with it until we got here.
Yeah, and apparently we'll get in here. This, I guess they were like, hey, hold on until we can get some dude from Constellation out here. Do you remember Constellation? Do you know what Constellation is? And
it ever
tell you,
explained how
that's-
those artifacts got there.
deep underground, and apparently they're all discovered by bandits or scientists or whatever. They're always under a facility.
Okay.
But that said,
Blah, blah,
despite
blah.
despite them reusing this part over and over, except
Yeah.
for this little dynamic bit, I thought this part was pretty cool.
Does it mean anything?
Tiny story.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I don't know how much.
Me.
It's not educational.
I don't
but
know.
it's
I was
not
impressed that it worked through the glove.
inaccurate.
I'm like, you
Yeah,
can touch
why?
this rock with a glove on,
Yeah,
and
it's
then
like
she's
pairing the
holding it, and
Bluetooth.
nothing happens.
Dude, space
Yeah.
magic can do anything. I thought we knew that by now.
Plot magic.
You're the spaceman.
You're the spaceman. Yeah, and now she's holding it. She's holding it there, which I did not realize the first time I was playing it, that she was just holding the little arches or the crescents. So I
skateboard.
guess it's only the first person who touches it gets the vision, and then everyone else, it's spent.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize because I had to boot up Oblivion and Skyrim after I played through this, but I forgot that there was kind of like archetypes of faces in those older games that you customize. It's not a full. You can't just create any face you want.
Yeah.
There are parameters, so you're just kind of tweaking what's already. And maybe I'm thinking of Saints Row, but how long has it been since I played Saints Row?
Well, I saw your character in Pal World was incredibly different.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have of what kind of characters you guys build for this. Is usually the stupidest part of the game. I usually hate this part because I always play first person, and someone was like, "It's a weird, this is good video, but there was a weird take that you mentioned the fact that no one plays or people who play in third person are weirdos. Lots of people play in third person." And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys
I think
play
I
in
played
third
this
person.
game in third person if I didn't have to watch that person run. That is the weirdest running animation. It's
That was the
slinging
thing
back and forth.
with all the Fallouts was they kind of just skate over the surface no matter what it is. It's kind of like we here we go. I prefer third, and I like to see my characters, but
Like the only reason to
I played
use the
Morrowind and
third-person
Oblivion
camera
there.
would be to like record gameplay, like some nice shots of the character walking. But outside of that, I didn't know.
I the reason why I like this versus, and this goes back to Morrowind, was the idea of immersion. Like, I like the idea of that first person view where I'm playing it, I am there. Because a lot of the games that were out at that time were like the Final Fantasies, the JRPGs, and that, where you're controlling this avatar running around. But it's like, I don't really care about that. I want to feel like I'm in this place. And I think, even going back to Morrowind, it's that first person that's what kind of tied me to that game, to that world. And I don't remember, I think Morrowind had third person. I think it did. I can't remember. No one fact check that, okay? I do want
fix it
to
in post.
just fix it in there. I do want to go on there are so many people who come to my review, and it's clear that they click on it, then maybe there's an ad or something, they pause it, they go, Starfield is a piece of crap, the end, Bethesda sucks, donkey, and then they leave. And that is so many comments on the review. And I was trying to get into it. It's like, hey man, what if you just watched the review? And it's like, nah man, the thumbnail and the title are all like clickbait. Like, why am I going to spend 2 hours, like listening to this guy trash on Starfield? I'm like, but don't trash on Starfield. It's like, well, I'm not going to spend 2 hours trying to find out. So
I can't afford that. I just gotta make an assumption here.
Yeah. And it's clearly like an investigation, but whatever. Subtlety is dead.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess my question to those people are, why are they on YouTube if that's what their attitude is? Like, why would you come to some place that's about explaining things and expounding upon?
Medium, are you trying to gatekeep the internet? Is that what I'm hearing?
Me.
First
I've got my key in hand, my sword in the other. Stay away.
First he's against third person, now he's this. No.
Oh, God. Cancel length.
So talk about the skills here. Did y'all sink a lot of time into this? Because I was, much like Cyberpunk, I was thrilled with whatever you called the background part. I was like, oh, this will be great. But I don't feel like much came of it. What was y'all's take?
Shkatsky, what do you think?
I don't think it really brought much to it. It allowed me to use some, piloting skills earlier, like that, slow-mo thing where you aim at different parts of the ship. But that was about it. the more interesting part of it was that, trades or perks really system, but that kind of ties into the whole character creation thing, because I created a guy that looked really, really damn funky and old, and like he looked properly 70, and I chose the kids stuff thing. And when I met my parents, they looked, I don't know, 30 years younger than me. So I had to actually like find that clinic that allows you to change your face so that I don't look so old when standing next to them. That was fucking ridiculous.
You have a plausible explanation for that, and that is space travel. I mean, we've seen Interstellar, where this little creative maneuver or whatever McConaughey says is going to cost us like 16 years, and you come back and everyone's older. Medium, what did you think of the background stuff?
I think I was pretty excited about it at first. I think I chose, if I'm remembering correctly, the one where like you get hunted more, like by the bounty hunters and stuff.
Oh,
whatever that one's called.
Oh yeah.
So I was kind of excited about that one, or a little scared too. But I was like, let's just make stuff happen. I think they said you can kind of get rid of most of them anyway. So I was like, let's just go all in on a couple of these and just let the game kind of push me around some and see if it's fun. And I got stuck on so many missions where I just couldn't get off planet anymore because I kept getting hit. I had to get rid of it real quick with some lady in neon. But I was like, okay, that didn't go anywhere, and that was about as far as I've seen the.
Here's me being third person. Yeah. I thought it was hilarious when I found the doctor on Cydonia that's like, hey, I can help you remove your empathy. If you want to stop feeling what other people feel. And I'm like, that's so weird. I don't want to put myself in other people's shoes. I don't want those dialogue options or whatever.
This just hands you a phone with Reddit open on it.
I was going to say you'd be a better YouTuber, right? But
yeah, just comment on random
videos. I have no feeling.
Go away very quickly.
Yeah, he would make you ingest, I don't know, 2,000 years of fortune posts in the future.
God. I didn't. It took me a little bit to realize that they have a big infatuation with Fallout vault doors.
Yeah.
It's like there's plenty of them here. And I bitch about the star map and that too. We're about to have our step out moment.
The Fallout 3 moment.
Or Oblivion. Like Morrowind didn't really have it because you're just walking up on top of the boat.
Oblivion was impressive back then.
Yeah. I did want to touch briefly on the background it's something I talk about in the review as well, is that it's so weird that you play this game and you're going around and you're talking to people as if you have never been born before, as if you've never existed. So everyone's, do you know what space is? Do you know how to handle a spaceship? Do you stuff that
do you know how to breathe?
Yeah. Do you know what food is? Do you know what inventory is?
I want food.
Shkatsky, you had a really good point about this because I do love the landscapes, but you did have a good point the last time we tried this about finding stuff on the horizon.
Yeah, well, to me, Starfield is when thinking about what Todd Howard said about basically every game that he ever had his, grubby hands involved in. He always says that if you see that mountain, you can you can get on top of it. Like you remember that first Skyrim presentation.
Right.
And this game is more like if you see a mountain or a star system or a solar system, you can fast travel to it.
Yeah.
Like everything is fast travelable if that's a word.
Yeah. It's totally perfectly cromulent.
Perfect. It embiggens the noblest spirit.
Motion carries.
Why
Baldy,
build an entire universe when it's basically you going from one instance to another instance and then just clicking on some option to just get back there to go talk to a guy? Why build everything around it?
Yeah,
there's no reason to.
Baldy, did you in previous games? Did you use the fast travel system much?
Yeah, but it varied according to the questing, right? Like in Witcher 3, I figured out fairly quickly, just roaming around, you saw a lot of things. Initially, it was good. After a while, it was kind of overwhelming. But in Fallout, so many of them felt like you'd be talking to a person in a vault. He'd say, go out to this part of the city. So you'd get way over there the first time you had a walk or fast travel close. You'd do the thing, and then you'd warp back. And then as soon as you talk to that guy in the vault, he goes, hey, I heard you took care of those raiders. It's like, how did you hear that? I just got back to you. So to me, there was no real point in not just jumping right back. So I ended up fast traveling a lot if I felt the world was too barren and open.
Yeah. And I want to say who Nakey Jakey had made the point about communication, how everyone knows everything spontaneously.
Yeah.
And I think I commented on that in the review about there's theoretically faster than light communication.
Yeah.
And people pointed out that no, that's not true, which in a very weak narrative way justifies you having to fly to every system and hand deliver emails, essentially.
Right,
or
and
text
so
messages.
When we spoke about it before, I thought a good option would be a la Star Wars Episode 1. What if you had to go back to your ship and open up your comm system and then communicate with whomever sent you out there? You could turn it in that way, get your skill up, level up, whatever. And then that way it's not, I got to warp all the way back, go through 2 or 3 load screens, get into the bar, talk to the bartender, and have him go, thanks, here's some credits and a generic gun you'll never use.
Right, exactly. Especially since there's so little weight to what you're doing.
Yeah. And there's so many loading screens and
Starfield. It's
Starfield
less of a problem in this setting, right? Because, like, if you would, give them the benefit of the doubt, you could say that, like, when your ship starts off and like flies off into space, it like connects to a local server that like travels between systems and like shares its data. Like,
it's kind of like did you have AOL flash sessions? During the dial-up era, where it's like you do a flash session, you would dial into the service.
I was too young for that. My dad had.
Oh, well, I guess it's just Baldy in me, right?
Probably, yeah, because you could it was almost like you could queue up all the emails or messages, jump on, and it would fire them all out real quick, and then you could sign out.
And then disconnect, so then you're not taking up the whole line. This is our second vignette. This is the governor of Cydonia is wanting me to destroy the ship, but instead... I'm hopping on board the ship to talk with the pirates, which I think was a really interesting.
Role-playing.
You role-played it, Medium? How did that go?
No, I was just saying, hashtag role-playing.
I was wondering if any of y'all did, because I tried. I got real good at it in the Fallout ones, and this one I found myself being me the whole time. So if you were going to actually say, oh, I role-played this as how would my guy act, I was going to be excited to hear about it.
Is this about him having an affair with someone?
I believe that's what it like, among other things. And then the ship was like some sort of like consolation. It's been however long since I played this.
Look, there's a docking screen. That won't get old.
It's amazing how every ship, no matter how old or distant or weird, has the same docking apparatus.
Yeah,
so that you can do that.
Fast travel to it.
God.
Well, honestly, if you had the Star Trek teleportation, just 2 to beam over and then bam.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that would work better. Like, why do you have a load screen here? I mean, I get why, but it's so fucking stupid.
Yeah,
it's like, where's the Metroid elevator to get us down, or the really long hatch opening sequence where it just works. Yeah. Because if you're in space combat and you pop out into camera view, into photo mode, it still renders everything inside the ship. So it's like, why does it have to go to that loads? Like, even aesthetically, it just feels like a fade between every single shot. It just gets so annoying.
Right.
That's
cross
like
dissolve.
Star wipe, right? Exactly. That's kind of how it feels if they just fix that part. The persuasion I thought was a lot more interesting in this game than previous Bethesda game, but also, like so many things in this game, it doesn't really tell you how it works.
I had no clue, man. I watched this thing so badly.
Yeah, I was like, I think I know how this works, because the stuff that was yellow or red was doing pretty good, but then it wouldn't sometimes. And speaking of the docking,
sometimes the green stuff would fail instantly, so that was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when you're playing the XCOM revival and it's like 90% chance to hit twice and you miss both times. We were talking about the
10% 's a
docking
bit.
in that. There was when people were talking about this game in podcasts like Nextlander, there was a couple others I think I was listening to. I thought that stuff would be like more prominent, like something that just pops. Like, hey man, you want to board this ship? But it felt like I would play the game and be like, how the hell do I board someone's ship? Like, how do I do that? And it's like, you have to disable it. You have to do this. At this point,
I have that skill, right?
You have to have a couple skills. Like, you have to,
Oh yeah.
you like, and the game doesn't tell you that. I've just persuaded the pirate to back down, and then I just kill him anyway. So whatever. And now here's Sarah. Your companion will like not wear their equipment, their spacesuit and that, but
In a
you will at all
spaceship.
times. Inside the spaceship. Yeah, or even just area. I pointed out in the review too, is like you can be on a planet that's airless, has no atmosphere, and they will instantaneously swap between having a spacesuit on and not.
Really?
Do you even
Yes.
know if there's oxygen in their ship, like opposed to yours?
I
How do you know
wanted
that?
Right.
That kind of reminds me of that Tech Sergeant Chen bit in Galaxy Quest. It's like, do you know if there's air here? Is it breathable? And he's like, seems good to me. That was a great part. I like the combat. What did you guys think of the combat? Medium, what did you think of the combat?
Pretty good. It reminded me pretty favorably of Cyberpunk 2077. At first, that game felt kind of light and weightless a little bit, and then I kind of got into it, and I was like, no, this feels pretty good. Like, all the guns look really great. They have a lot of great detail and kind of modulation of different textures, and they just look cool, and they feel pretty decent. They're not, like, immaculate in terms of the competition, but just by far and away better than anything they've ever made before, and a lot better than I was expecting.
Balti, what do you think?
Phantom Liberty has had much better combat than this. I'm sorry.
No,
Oh,
go
for
ahead.
it. Finish it.
Yeah, finish your thought.
No.
No.
I'm just saying that, I always been a Cyberpunk proponent, like since its release. Like, obviously I wasn't fond of the technical issues, but I really liked the game as a game. And with, all of those patches and updates and now that expansion that you're supposedly covering, right?
Yes. And
I think they
you pl-
improved.
you
the
played a lot of the
combat a
early
lot.
on, right? Because I know they
Yeah.
did the big 2.0 update, and I haven't played anything before. So I'm only playing the newest version of
so
whatever.
You're playing the best possible version of it, believe me.
Exactly. That's what happens when you wait 10 years.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
so
Yeah, a lot of
but
that stuff they kind of fixed back in 2022.
that's as I kind of. This is it. That's the. Maybe the note pops up. Balti, what do you think of the
Starfield's
combat?
combat is fine.
It worked really well.
Sorry.
It was for me. I like the guns that you can adjust. I like being able to add silencers and optics or whatever the proper terminology is. I like that. I felt still though so many times it was just bullet spongy. Like you had a piece over there earlier. You're able to kind of just sit in the back and shoot 4 or 5 times. Was this a 7-round clip maybe? Reload. A couple more. Reload. And the AI, of course, is pretty weak. We saw those people waiting on the deck below us
Yes!
instead of trying to engage. It is sitting there, and one of them takes cover behind a ladder, which is quite an amazing choice. So
Yes.
that was, and after a while, maybe we get to it later. The crafting and work-based stuff, I don't feel like it's scaled enough. I never really felt super powerful with my gear, and I want to always feel that if I can play the game correctly, I want to feel overpowered and super strong because I spec my character and built my gear accordingly.
I think that as I was starting to build up enough skills to modify weapons, I was starting to get better guns and weapons on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just rendered that whole thing. And again, it goes back to this idea that so many of the disciplines and concepts of this game were developed independently without consideration for, okay, well, you can spend 6 hours working on this thing and then you can start working on this other thing for 5 minutes and it automatically makes the other 6 hours obsolete.
Right. Like you don't know how much do I want to level up this gun versus will I find a better one in a crate in the next mission?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. There were people who just genuinely did not like the gunplay. And I think you're right. Like the fact that people have no vertical. Also, this game took me a long time to get used to the ladders, especially on the bigger ships where you have like one ladder set next to the other. I think you even see it in this ship, but like one ladder set next to another ladder, and it doesn't quite work the way that you expect it to.
Yeah.
That became kind of a pain in the butt as well.
We talked a bit here about the look of the interior, and since you're showing so much of it right now on screen, what was y'all's impression with how everything looks here, artistically, stylistically, the way they depicted? And we talked about NASA Core versus NASA Punk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to start us off? Medium, tell us what you think about the way they drew some of the backgrounds, the little nooks and crannies, all the stuff that you can pick up.
Yeah, I think I was describing it when we first met up. It's kind of like, what if the alien universe looked nice? Like, what if it wasn't just everything wasn't in decay or like under, the lights were about to go out and it was about to be coated in blood.
Right.
It's funny, Rose, I was thinking that you just went across a notebook with blood all over it, and I was like, oh, that looks pretty good. It's right there, like right to his right. You just went past it.
Yeah.
But you probably see it in passing. But I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. That looks like a unique kind of lived in, like a cause and effect, like an action happened here. And it may have been Nick who was talking about this last time, but we were commenting that everything, I say everything, most things look really new, like they look kind of out of the package. And so it can be kind of disconcerting to be like, man, there's so much nice detail and texture here.
Yeah.
But it looks kind of like it was like a TV show with a cheap budget that just kind of unwrapped whatever they brought in. You know, and then did set dressing, and then we're like, and there it is. And it's like kind of composition based versus like the gradient of lived inness that you probably need in order to make it really kind of put it over the edge.
Especially later on when they get to that, there's a ship that's been lost for X hundred years, and it looks just about the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Yeah, there was the anachronisms. Shkatsky, what did you think of the NASA Core aesthetic? I freaking loved it, personally.
I mean, it's a coin with, two sides. The first side is, really polished and nice and, worth a lot. And it's like, the whole design of those ships and, the amount of detail that is so, I would even say, decadent. It's like you can like just look at those things on your cockpit that don't really do anything, but they are still filled with so many little nooks and crannies and bolts and stuff like that. But just as Baldy and the Medium said, those ships look like they came off straight from an assembly line, even if they are like hundreds of years old or whatever. Like, if this is a ship, the one that you just was at, that was taken over by pirates, wouldn't it look a bit different? Wouldn't there,
grimy,
be some
patched up, kind of?
some sign of of them taking it over, like some blood here and there, like bodies, like, and grime and shit like that. And the one thing that I'm always fascinated by when reading about people who live on the ISS, the International Space Station, is like most people think about how awesome it would be to be on that station and stuff like that. But the only thing I keep thinking about is like how badly it has to smell in there. It's like it's a group of people locked in a can that
like a submarine
that pee there, that take shits there, right? Fart in there, and it's the same air all the time. It probably gets filtered or something, but it probably is really nasty in there. And it's like, I know a game can't really show that, but if you ever watched that show, The Expanse, I think they did a way better job of showing a more believable NASA punk, let's call it that. It's not really NASA punk, but it's like they only conquered the solar system, so that's basically all they
The
ever
extent of
seen.
it.
So that's
Yeah.
so that's like near future thing, and that looks believable in some way. This kind of has a nice aesthetic that looks more interesting than a lot of other sci-fi games, but it doesn't look believable.
Yeah.
I think that really feeds into the point I made in the review of the fact that you can't your ship never really becomes your home,
Right.
and it's the aesthetic, absolutely, but it's also the fact that the game has no reason for you to ever be in your ship, especially as
Because you forget you even own it, because you can just like fast travel to any planet you want.
and you can acquire so many. Like all you have to do is grab especially if you're the surveying type who's wandering around and ships are coming down and you're killing the people and taking the like you can just rack up tons of ships relatively quick, relatively easy, and there's no connection to them because there's no. They're really just a contrivance to get to places. Just a fictional explanation. Like, how'd you get there? Oh, you have a ship, or like 20. It took them forever it took me forever to figure out how to modify ships and stuff like that. But then you do that, and I did one with an Xbox paint scheme from the original Xbox with the black and the acid green, and that was fun. Took a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, but why do I really need this? Why do I really need
I did it all once, and after that, I was like, okay, this is almost not quite pointless, but something related. I played Lost Colony, and at least when you warped on that, looking at the windows, had like the classic Star Trek stars being blurred, and you could still walk about your ship and take care of things. So sometimes we'd set course for somewhere, hit warp, and then go load up the weapons or cycle through our gear or do whatever. And then when you come out of warp, it feels like you were effectively traveling instead of just load screen, bam, here we are on the planet.
And what's interesting is that there is that mission where you are a passenger on a ship as it goes from New Atlantis to the secret military outpost, and you get to experience the whole ride from in the first person. Now, there's still like loading screens as they're like warping between places, but we go back to that discussion we had earlier about, well, what if they just dressed it in a different way? Because clearly they're not doing a lot of set dress. They don't really need full loading screens. Someone pointed out that in the lounge on Neon, there's a loading screen when you use the elevator to get to the second floor, but you can actually just use your booster pack to get to the second floor from the first floor. So it's like, why do you need a load screen just to move your character up 10 feet and this elevator asset at the same time?
Just like with the train in New Atlantis, right? You can
Yeah, 100%.
Yes. It's all pointless.
You like the detail on here. I just love the aesthetic of some of this stuff, but I also
constellation pack looks pretty nice. Got
but I also thought it was
stuff
weird.
On it.
I thought it was weird that they gave you a booster pack and then didn't tell you like that you actually needed a skill to use it.
Yeah.
That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
I dug around for that one very first. I was like, we're not going to have less fun for hours and hours. We're going to get to that one right away.
Yeah. We're going to yes. Someone said that there was a skill that you can get relatively early on that's like a point tripler for traits and stuff. I didn't research it, but someone just said like instead of just 1 point per level, you get 3, and maybe that's real. I don't know, but it's like, man, that would have been nice.
It's like a common theme. It's probably something related to like what is it in Oblivion or Morrowind? I think it is, or maybe even be a Fallout carryover. It's like one of those like
it's tied to intelligence
or
in Fallout.
Gives you
It's
extra
like
points per
learn
level.
or something like that.
Yeah. I think they've kept that exploit on as like a feature.
It's kind of like back in Morrowind and even Oblivion, the acrobatics where you're hopping around to boost that. You just bunny hop to everything and you boost that. And then they rip that out in either Fallout or Skyrim.
Yeah, and then you could like jump through the whole map.
Yeah. I remember stripping down as a Khajiit in Morrowind and just hopping between buildings in Balmora.
Oh yeah, me
And
too.
that was so great because I'd have 100 acrobatic skill and go in there.
What was great too is you could actually earn really high amounts of experience for that if you fell and took lots of fall damage too.
Oh.
So there's all sorts of little fun variations on that were kind of M-simmy in a way.
People were really mad at me
Or-
that I had less of an opinion about Morrowind and
Emulation.
Oblivion 15, 20 years later. I was like, I can't. It's hard to play these old games anymore.
Dude, Morrowind without fast travel is a tough bird because those directions are oftentimes almost like intentionally not accurate.
So
Right.
Baldy was with me when I was playing Morrowind for the. It wasn't 10,000. I think it was one of my fundraiser streams.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there just wandering around lost, like trying to rely on 20-year-old memories of where I think stuff is, and it's not quite there. And of course, the draw distance, since it's emulating the original Xbox version, which was like back in the day, I thought it was like, this is cutting edge. And I'd look at it years later and be like, man, this is running at like 15 to 20 frames per second, and it's pea soup about 100 feet out. And it works a lot better on the newer consoles, but it's still like it's hard to discern so much of what's in that environment. And when they changed that up in Oblivion, they changed the engine so you could see to because that's kind of where the whole like see to the horizon thing was, and you can go there was Oblivion because you could perch up on an edge and then look down and see kind of everything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very stark contrast between Oblivion and Morrowind. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. And when Todd Howard said that a lot of the magic of Morrowind was the fact that the game could reboot the console during a load screen, I was like, "What? Are you serious?" so that it could just flush everything out. So I was like, All right, we're going to our third set. We are out. This is taking out a bandit. You guys, there's a billion of these everywhere, which makes the universe feel really small. Because I intentionally went out to one of the farthest planets, solar systems, in the Starfield, and there's still facilities that look just like this.
Yep.
Even if there's fewer of them. Granted, it is kind of fun to shoot through these. Like
Right.
I kind of never got bored.
Yeah, my joke was going to be, oh, the quest where you have to go to that place and kill bandits. I remember that quest. But yeah, look
I
how
remember it too, Baldy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got that far? Okay, good.
Yeah, good quest. Yeah.
It's the one that had all the miscellaneous boxes around and weird stuff for the,
It had the one terminal for the robots that you could reprogram if you remember to get to the terminal before you kill the robots.
Mm-hmm. You could release the Mr. Handy. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah, and it had this one random guy that was really over leveled, but still died really easily. So yeah,
the captain, the one who had like the 2 or 3 health segments on there.
The big pirate guy.
The shift lead of the Starfield Pirate Union 234. They're really standing up strong out here in the void. Again, because I enjoyed the combat so much in here, I get like I said it like 4 times in review. It's like, no, it's not the best, but it is solid, and I had fun with it. And I had a gun or two at this point where I could one-shot dudes and feel like really badass. Here we go. This is the shift lead.
The captain.
The Captain Spacer Punk.
Yeah.
And some of these are really template based. Some of these have like a little bit of permutation to it. But yeah, I thought I just really enjoyed the gun fighting and stuff like that in here.
I mean, it's the best gunfighting or combat system that Bethesda ever made. But then that really doesn't say a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. And then we leave here and we go
funny
into
too. Is it's like the people who play these games for the action or something, or are there people who play Bethesda games for their incredible combat or something? It's almost like they're really butthurt when it's like, this isn't nearly as good as X. It's like, okay. I mean, I can understand if it's like really bad, but it's like it makes the rest of it seeing even more because you've got like combat you're actually okay with going back and doing again instead of just being like sort of something in the between talking to people.
Right.
I mean, haven't they been making first-person combat for like games for like I don't know 1,000 years?
Yeah. I was kind of going
And
back
then
to
you
the
know,
Have
CD
it. I mean,
Projekt
like
makes-
Cyberpunk guys when you switched over
Yeah.
to it. I mean, people are kind of like, and it was pretty good too. I mean, it's obviously a little bit better than this. It's more fleshed out, but
yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
think
that's
there's a lot
the
more
I
First
think it'd be more
FPS
critical if
game
it's
they
like
ever
really
made.
floppy and lame versus just being like pretty decent and serviceable. And sometimes, oh, that was really cool.
Yeah. The physics are fun.
Yeah.
There was a
Put
I mentioned
8,000 sandwiches in your fucking ship.
I never found.
Succulents.
I think I found like a dozen sandwiches ever. I was like, how, are they just? They would have to be
And
making.
that's why we have
sandwiches.
load screens.
God.
There's
Did you guys have the
sandwiches
problem?
there's preloading.
Did you guys have the problem with this game with finding ammo or like like having like I did where I had to keep flipping back to my gun? It's like, what ammo does this take? 9x39 or
quite a
the
bit.
Yeah, I felt some of those were
I'd just
a little
buy out every vendor. I'd just be like,
I kept going to that one guy that was buying all the contraband that didn't really have any problems. That
Oh yeah.
Wolf system guy, right? Yeah, and I just bought all the ammo from him.
I never
Well,
found
kind of
the
like in
contraband
Skyrim,
guy.
the way you could go to the fencer and buy and sell anything. I forget the
Yeah.
equivalent in here, but if I'm thinking of the same one you are, that was a super overused resource for me. Was I was constantly running into that dude going, "Here, take all this and give me some bullets."
Yeah. And I also talked about in interview that the vendors only have so much cash, so that you're
Yeah.
not like dumping a bunch.
Oh,
They run out of money, and they're the only vendor that buys that particular thing, like whether it's contraband or it's the planetary surveys or whatever the hell. And
Yeah.
it's like, cool, I'm gonna
And
wait
now
36
pay me
hours.
200,000 for a ship that you don't need, but
Or a ship that you can't pilot yet because you don't have a Class C
yeah.
license.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, which the
did
game.
anybody
also
find
does.
themselves getting way richer in this game than they did the other previous Bethesda games?
I did a little, but mostly
I feel
because
like
I
had,
couldn't
like,
find
almost a
anything I
million
wanted to spend it all
credits
on.
or something real fast.
There's this one casino where you could like respawn contraband in, but, without any gravity. I don't know if that exploit still works.
I remember I didn't start running into contraband until like late in the game, and then I was
That
like,
was one of the first things I found.
people had such weird, like, differently experience, and I think that's actually kind of cool because I didn't know how to like get a secure compartment for my ship so that I could smuggle contraband. I didn't know who to sell it to. But then there were people like, I did 1,000,000 zero gravity combat encounters, and the other are like, I never encountered one. And after I cut together the review, I played it a little bit more, and I did like one or two more zero gravity things, and I thought they were neat. But again, it felt like one of those ideas that was made in isolation, but then they just kind of never considered it.
Like when you board them, that would be like 0G. That would be cool.
That would be like if you have to destroy their gravity drive or gravity.
Yeah. That would be
Like,
really fucking
like
cool.
it's
Yeah.
like boarding. That's like the last thing, and you've destroyed all the other systems or something. That'd be
But
cool.
also
Imagine
to
if
that,
you could like shoot out the window and just like fly out of their ship back to yours.
I want to see ragdolls just like being sucked out through windows out into space.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
But no,
Little
you can't do that
grappling
because
hook to, like, secure yourself.
okay. But what if they were you?
That's one thing that I loved about Dead Space 2. Like, blowing up those windows so that, all of the necromorphs get sucked out into space. That was always fun.
That. What if you combine that with the load screen? So like you shut out the windows, they ragdoll out, but you can see them. They have a load screen. You can't see them because they have a load screen, and then they load into
and then
space.
you jump out, you have
They
a
have
load
to-
screen, and then you're in space. Yeah.
Yep.
That would be probably what it would be. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Gosh, my big thing with the specific damage perk, because you were talking about earlier, is you get the slow-mo and you can start targeting individual FTL style, I guess, is the fact that by the time I'm like destroying critical functions, I've already destroyed the ship entirely because they're like hand in hand as far as damage. So I was like, well, why do I need to target the engines and knock them out when the ship's already 90% destroyed by the time I even get that done?
Like
The
everybody's
engines are
already
probably all
dead.
that's left.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's just toothpicks and boxes at this
Yeah.
point.
Just blow it up.
And then there was the banned mechs and stuff. I remember, Balti, did you go through the Vanguard Museum where they explained everything? I thought that Vanguard Museum was so badass. Like one of my favorite parts of this game.
That was pretty good, and it was one of the few spots that I
Where is
didn't
that?
just skip everything through. I kind of watched it and listened to some of that, which I don't always do.
Yeah. I thought it was better than the other games where it's like, here's this Wikipedia of everything in the universe or how Outer Worlds. I compared it to Outer Worlds a lot. But like everyone's
sometimes
just
the other-
dumping everything.
Sometimes the other games, it's more like, welcome to the Museum of Exposition.
Yeah.
I really
is all
like
the
the
stuff we
codex
didn't
in
know.
Mass Effect games. The narrator had a really nice voice.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I need to do that for a future review. Stay tuned.
So here's your look at coming outside, and you've got your scanner up. Did y'all bother scanning anything?
Maybe for like 15
If
minutes.
I was on a planet going to one of the little power temples or whatever, I would just kind of click around just because why not? But that's about it.
Yeah.
I think
I would just fast
surveying-
travel everywhere.
Well, yeah. I think surveying, honestly, was probably like the most fun I had in the game. Just wandering around this randomly generated planet. It also highlighted the contrivances, especially when you're trying to do the traits, which you see the little bubbles there.
Yeah.
Those were the hardest for me to kind of wrap my head around because you'd have all these points of interest around the map, and you could spend a lot of time walking out to wherever. And I suggested like a Sparrow kind of motorbike bike speeder to get around, which they said they're gonna do something. But I really
They
like
have
the pedestrian speedness of it all from time to time, honestly. Like because then there are so many planets even now from the review where it's like I remember being on that planet because I had to walk a lot of it and scan it. I just didn't understand like how there'd be so many plants and animals on this planet that you couldn't scan. Like, are you just looking for specific stuff or what? I think this guy's dude. Did you get into it, Baldy? Much?
Nope.
Not at
No,
all.
I couldn't figure out when it was ticking off the thing is done versus when it didn't.
Sure.
So I quickly gave that up. But honestly, just to me, the whole world felt so open and boring, and you didn't find
Like the
much
real
worth
world.
Alien
Alien worlds are just like ours.
Yep.
Damn it.
Level up faster in game, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah. I had so much fun kind of wondering, and I realize I'm weird and strange in that regard. That's okay.
Sure.
But there were bugs and finding. I'm at 8 out of 10 fauna now, so here I am like, where the hell is the last one? And if
Right.
you pop out to the star map, it'll tell you because you can select different biomes
Yeah.
where to land on the planet, and you can get to a point where there's still one left. You'll be at 9 out of 10, and all the biomes will say they're 100%. So it's like, where the hell is it? And it's a sea creature or something. You have to go do that. On Neon, there are actually 2 fauna that you can scan, and the only way that you can get them is if you find your way to the base of the platform, and they're both sea animals. So you have to wait around for them to
show up.
spawn and respawn so you can scan enough of them to get them. And that was like, I had to Google that one.
I did like
they're-
that not every single enemy tried to kill you. Like around here, there's plenty lower on the food chain, and even some big ones, they were still presumably herbivores or something else, and they were not going to just chase you down because
Maul
they're
you.
programmed to. That was a welcome relief.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What's
And
your reward for doing all the scanning?
money. So when you complete the survey on the left there, it becomes a tablet, and then you can take those to Vlad in the eye and sell them. And he's that vendor who is like, he's the only one who buys them, and he would run out of money. So I would just be on a tear. I'd do surveys for 10, 20 worlds. I'd sell him stuff, and it'd be like I'd have to sit there in the station for use the time mechanic, which is the only time I ever used it, which was to fast forward so I can sell him. He gets his payday, he gets his money, and then I can sell him more stuff.
There is a good web comic about that from the perspective of the shopkeeper owner. Like, he sells everything, and like he goes home and he comes back, and there's a guy just standing stock still outside his store, and he's asking his wife, "Wasn't that guy here yesterday?" And she's like, "Yeah, he hadn't moved in 8 hours." And so they go through the whole day and go home, and then they come back the third day, and then all of a sudden the guy goes in and goes, "Hey, you want to sell stuff?"
I had to learn this is totally the Bethesda. It is a Bethesda exclusive thing. I have not experienced this in any other game, at least off the top of my head. I remember in Morrowind, the trick was I would sell them all the stuff I had, and then I would take all of their money, and then I would buy everything that was in the shop, and then I would sell the shop.
Yep.
I would sell the merchant all his stuff back to him at kind of a loss, but it would still be, I would still, at the end of it all, still get like 70% of what I was originally selling. And and I would have to spend like 2 or 3 weeks in game doing this stupid thing.
You can do that with Scamp in Morrowind because he's got 5,000 gold. He's like the most, base. He's the man. So
out in the marsh, if I remember it right. He's not the crab.
Let's see. He was in a building. Was he in like Alderaan or something?
I remember there was a crab. Yeah, and here's one of those trait things where it's like I had already scanned it, so it was like, whatever.
Yeah, I think it was like one of the more imperial cities or something. But yeah, regardless, he was at one of the bigger cities.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And it's like, what a pain in the ass that was. But this part reminded me a lot of Colorado, actually.
Nice.
This reminds me a lot of like backcountry and like camping out and stuff like that. So it's like it was kind of like walking sim. If they just sold this part as a standalone walking simulator, like I don't know, that might be worth like $10 by itself. Where you have to go scan stuff. Like maybe this is Firewatch 2 or whatever the hell, that's that's what I think of.
Sky for Old Men or something.
Exactly. Yeah. Get some beat up trucks and you stumble upon a drug deal, that went bad. I think that
Sky for Old Men.
No, that's clever. Baldy, are there some comments that pop up in your feed there that really kind of stick out to you regarding the review?
Most people, when we were looking at it, talked a little bit about what you and I had first said, which was it didn't quite deliver on all the skills and the choices that you'd be able to do. Like, it still boils down to go here, shoot this. And there was not a lot in the way of skill checks and speech checks. So when you're playing a game like that, Medium, do you like options such as you can skill check with a high explosives, intelligence, and therefore you liken yourself to the guy and he gives you a thing? Or are you fine just going in and fighting for everything? Or anybody, or Skotsky, take it on. Like, what is your take on?
Yeah. I was trying to make sure I was understanding the question.
No, that's fine. I didn't really word it well, but like in Fallout, you could sometimes say if you had enough of a explosives knowledge and you're talking to a guy about explosives, he would be like, "Yeah, okay, cool, I'll help you." Or if you were charismatic, you could say something and he'd be like, "Yeah, okay, you're not a threat. That's fine." Or you could just sneak it, right? You could go in there when they weren't looking and steal a thing. In this game, I felt almost everything was going to come down to a firefight.
Right. It tends to. Like, I think there's that bank mission, or it's like the second or third planet you go to, and there's like that holdout at the bank or whatever the
Tequila City.
Yeah. And I felt like that could have gone a couple different ways, and I felt like if I could just, it kind of has that illusion of choice where the choices are too easy to bypass. So you end up just sort of doing the thing you would have done anyway, which is what you're going to do pretty much everywhere else. There's like a back door and a front door, and you're like, well, I'm just going to kind of come in there and kick the door down and just, okay, corral everybody anyway. So I'm not sure if this is a real choice or if it is like a little bit of a seasoning at the beginning. As far as like what you do in Fallout New Vegas, where there's like an explosives, word out next to the dialogue option or something like that.
Yeah.
All that's fine. I do kind of wish there was a little bit more synthesis between kind of that immersive sim, kind of like, you go high or go low, or that kind of thing. Because there was one mission. It's the one where you're like advised, the Ryujin Corporation one, kind of like the last one, where you're told like don't bring your guy because he'll fall out of the rafters when you're trying to sneak around and alert everybody.
And real quick, this bug right here with the photo mode, where it was permanently raining whenever I went into photo mode, it cleared itself out, but for a long time, it looked like I was in the middle of rain. But anyway. But you were talking about skills and stuff. Yeah, it just generates that random box of rain around.
Yeah, did you know that rain actually only spawns like a meter or two from your character?
Yeah.
And that's it.
And you see that right here. It's great. So I gotta see shooting shots.
Amazing.
You're like a Charlie Brown comic where the dark cloud's only over you.
Yeah. But it does create this kind of fun ripple effect there.
Raindrops are falling on my head.
And nowhere else in this really big empty planet. And then, but no, I think you're spot on with the skills. Whether or not you were talking about Aquila City and that the bank situation as you get in there, I failed the persuasion check by like just barely.
Yeah,
and I thought, well, that's kind of the only other option if you don't want to shoot it out. So what did I do? I failed the persuasion, so I had to shoot it out. It's like, damn it. I wish I had. So yeah, I think too many of them does kind of do that. And I think with Shkatsky, you mentioned like assembly lines for ships. Hope Town, they build the ships, and you actually have to go inside one at a point to plant something or something like that. And it's like, man, wouldn't it be badass if you had to like watch a ship being like if you just sat there long enough, you could see a ship being assembled. I think that would be so cool, but nah, they're just kind of Now let's just have a little.
You sound like Peter Molyneux.
God.
Fable 2 triggers all over again.
We are in the fourth
I
segment.
an acorn and it turned into a tree.
I was playing Fable because I was thinking of doing a Fable trilogy, and I remember because that game and what Molyneux was saying about Fable was catnip for Xbox fans because the Xbox had a hard drive, and theoretically you could do this fun stuff like plant a tree and it would grow over the course of a game. Oh, this is me doing a Crimson Fleet something or another. Yeah. I'm leaving the Vanguard, which is one of the only capital ships in the game. The only time I remember doing any ship battles was during this quest line, which was honestly maybe my favorite. But it also kind of highlighted some of the flaws in how they designed quests.
That's a beautiful design for the ship.
Which mine or the Vanguard?
The purple one.
Oh yeah, I went All Saints Row on my ship. I think this is
got that raise.
So what was y'all's first reaction? And maybe Nick, start us off since this is your footage. You've got that level 14 with the red skull in here, which presumably means, hey, you probably aren't ready for this yet. What were y'all thinking when you first hit one of these kind of fights?
This was, I want to say this was the penultimate space battle of this quest. And it was very unique because it was the only one of its kind. I had like very little issue with space combat throughout the game. And as I talked in review, it was this one and then another space battle one in the main quest where because I didn't fully understand the space combat mechanics, I could work over, it was like 95% of whatever they offered.
Yeah.
But then there would be times like this where I'm just getting wrecked over and over and over again. And now here's that zoom in mechanic. Shkatsky was talking about. I'm taking out the batteries that are defending the Crimson Fleet, but I'm also getting wrecked. So,
I've seen that a lot.
Me too.
Oh, God, Shkatsky, what did you think of the elite enemies and stuff in space, or just anywhere, I guess?
I mean, when it came to fighting on the ground or like in ships, it was mostly fine, but I found that space combat, without using that zoom-in skill, kind of didn't really do much for me at all. Like it felt, I don't know. Have you guys played like any modern spaceship fighting game like Chorus or something?
It's been a while. Like the most
Yeah.
recent one I played was that Lost Colonies.
Oh.
No,
With
I haven't
that
played
Star Wars Squadron game.
I played Everspace too, but that's got kind of a more simpler model like this.
Yeah, and I think I'm a proponent of simpler models when it comes to spaceship games, but this felt kind of really awkward to me. I never really got much into it. Like there was this mission like really early on where you have to like sneak with your ship.
Yes.
With that deep, yeah, that was awkward as hell too.
Because you have to keep your ship in a certain speed where it's like trying to teach you theoretically you want to be in that middle band where you're able to turn but you're also not sitting still,
Right.
which the game doesn't telegraph really.
I had to go find that on one of those beginners tips forum. How did you come up with that? Did you just learn it?
The middle speed,
Right.
that in theory I understood it, but when as I talk in a review about the 6 things that I did to turn space combat from something I did terribly at to something that I was amazing at, the game really doesn't. I had to look that part up, or it's like just keep it in the middle. And that specific stealth quest, they tell you like just keep it in the middle so you don't attract attention. Or if you have there's that trait where you are like one of the serpent and you can talk to them and it's all good, whatever, snakes and whatever. But there was so much about this where it's like, man, I wish the game had taught me or onboarded me or provided any, because you can sit there and if I have to leave the game to Google something is wrong.
Exactly.
Something is wrong about what the game is teaching.
Yeah, there are only 2 solutions to this problem, really. Like, either the tutorial should be not 2 hours long as it is now, and it should, like, last 10 hours and explain everything, and that would be horrible. Or they could just, like, as soon as you open the game, they could have, like, this sub-menu called tutorials, and, like, maybe even make these, like, 5 to 10 second videos, or maybe even like simulations where you can do something, and that would explain what you can do. Like
that's a great idea.
Used to do that, and that really worked.
There was in the game. There's a spot where you go to a simulator and you have to train. They could do those videos in there.
Why can't you like access that in the menu, like right off when you start the game?
Yeah,
and see, they tried to do that when you leave. The first mining planet is like, here's the basics of ship combat, but then they don't teach you quite enough about it. And I think like there's so many ways. I mean, you alluded to them, Shkatsky, of just like when you have so many mechanics and your game is so big, there is really this battle of how do you present this stuff? Because over the years I've played games that kind of do everything, and I don't think there's like one winningest way to do that. Because if I look at a list of like, here is 40 tutorials, it's called the paradox thing, where it's like, here's 40 tutorials. Do you want to learn about everything? Like workers and resources, the strategy game. That's like that too. You can spend 10 minutes on each of these individual tutorials. Are you going to retain any of it? Probably not.
You mean that Soviet Republic game?
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and there's a battle there of like, what is the best way to do it? Because even in this game, there were times, I want to say particularly when I was advancing the main quest, where it would teach me about something mechanically when I'd already been playing the game and had to learn it on my own. And so they would have a tutorial, but they put it in the wrong place on the assumption that I wasn't going to immediately skip out on this boring-ass constellation quest. Medium, what did you think about the tutorial in that?
Sorry, let me get my volume up here.
Yeah, get your volume up. So tutorial. Boy. Yeah, what did you think about tutorials in this game and onboarding and all the different mechanics and stuff like that?
Yeah, I realized, and it's good that we're on space combat here, that I was actually getting kind of just ramrodded by everything and anything because I wasn't realizing like certain basic
Yes.
fundamental things like that. Like for
Mine
instance,
sure.
one funny little thing that happened, like see that thing that just popped up on screen, the X with the travel next to it.
Yes.
For some reason, the things I was pointing towards were so like awash in that star glow to the right that I couldn't even see it. So there's certain pieces of menu that are completely obscure depending on what you're aiming at that you're trying to get to. Like there's a really shiny space station one time.
Yeah.
And the travel and the dock or the hail or whatever were completely unseeable.
Obscured.
So I was like, "What am I doing wrong? How can I get to this stupid ship?" So I just kept running into it and exploding, thinking I was just supposed to like eventually get close enough to it to make the game go, "Oh, you're here. You can come in." And I was just like, "What am I doing wrong? God!" And just,
Yeah.
like,
Are you
weird
talking like
things like
docking
that.
too?
Yeah, like the UI, like all of the little
Yeah.
stuff in the interface is like the same color as a lot of the moons. A lot of the spaceships are light, really light.
When I first made
star
it to the
glow coming
eye,
off.
I crashed into it over and over, thinking, if I get close enough, will it auto dock? What am I missing? I could not see the little hold X to dock or whatever it was.
I did the same thing when
Yeah.
I went to the
Grayest game,
Demos
but-
quest.
the grayest game.
The greatest game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, and just one thing I noticed
Greatest
too.
game of 2023.
I had to basically play the main story for like 5 or 6 missions to get a lot of the stuff I need to know for everything else in the game. And
Yeah.
otherwise, it would not tell me. It wouldn't like if there was a like situation that came up, space travel or space fight. It wouldn't tell me the things I needed to know. It would just be like, and then I'd be like, all right, let me get back to the story, and then I'd find out something really basic that I should have known hours ago, just
Yes.
from prompting doing a similar action. I was like, is that really what I'm gonna have to do? I guess I will have to play this story long enough to get all the things I need to know for everywhere else. Okay.
there was a segment during that during the footage earlier before we go to the governor's ship and board it. There's a part where it starts out and I'm just looking at the little hexagon and there's no information on it, and I didn't realize that you could press, I think it's A, to select it.
Yeah.
And then and I did the same thing with the docking station in Demos when I needed to do the job application for the mining quest. You have to select the thing in space, and then it gives you the interface, if you can see it, to interact with it. And I was like running into it. I was like, what the hell am I supposed? And then I had to Google that. That's like the first thing I had to Google to figure out like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this thing? And so every time I wanted to go somewhere, load screen, you're in space, in your ship, in your cockpit like you are now, and I would go to the star map to go somewhere instead, so that it would target the planet I wanted to go, and then I could, initiate my jump drive or whatever the hell it is. And it's like, man, if I just known, or if they'd integrated more of the interface into this view, where you have to do everything through here, I think that would have been more fun. If they would have had to work around that, though.
Did you expect that the crew members would have an active role on your ship or even a passive buff? Because when you go to some of the stations, you can see just like generic type people hanging out like in the bars or whatnot, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm Joe and I'm a gunner," or "I'm so and so and I'm a," you know what I mean? I was really expecting, oh, if I put them in here, they'll auto fire some of this or things go up, but I didn't really detect it. Did you see any of that?
I did, and my controller batteries are low, apparently. I did that because one of the things that it recommends, and Vasco actually mentions it when you step on the ship on the planet, on the opening planet, is that Vasco will help you with your shields. And so it wasn't until Endgame that I assigned Vasco to my ship, and he helped with shields. And there's an effect, but it's so subtle that it is kind of just
So what does it do?
thing goes up. What's that, Mr. Skotsky?
What does it do?
They will they each have their individual little tweaks. Like some are better for like repairs. Like if you're in the skids and you need your shield back up, or you need your hull replaced really quick or boosted, something like that, they will make that hull recharge go up faster. Or they'll make the shield recharge go up faster, or I don't know, like the energy drain on your weapons is a little less, but it is very subtle. So you have to have a couple people on board to really feel it. But even then, kind of as you're alluding to, Baldy, is like it doesn't really feel like it because there's no one auto-firing, there's no one in a turret, it's not like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker hopping up in the turrets, blasting TIE fighters or anything. There's nothing like, you're still doing everything.
It would be really cool if they were, because like if you had Barrett, for example, he could be calling out, another one coming in this way, or, oh, I just knocked one down, or, oh, we lost shields, something to make you think that they could help you. Otherwise,
like right now, if you look at the health in the bottom right.
Yeah. Like in my mind, all they're doing is they're just sitting back there playing 3D chess or something, or, getting
Sleeping.
a little nap in while you're up here doing all this.
Yeah. And that's basically what it is. I guess theoretically, I'd never tried it, but theoretically, I guess you could hop out of your chair. No, I guess you can't. Not at this point. It usually gives you the prompt. But I guess theoretically, you could just be in combat and then just exit, leave your chair, and just go talk to people. But the game doesn't. The game builds nothing for that.
Of a conversation.
Yeah.
You can go back to a passive aggressive conversation.
So I mentioned earlier that I've been watching a lot of Star Trek, and so it'd be like, all right, red alert, someone, Scotty, give me more engine power. Yeah,
it's like it's a good thing the counselor's on the ship.
And then he comes up to the bridge and says, "Hey, Captain, do you want to get a coffee together?"
Hey, if you got a minute, I got a personal quest I'd like you to help me out with. No.
Oh God.
Yeah, I really like the Gal from the engineering deck.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about it?
In this game and every BioWare game and every Bethesda game, I hate hey, can we talk about something?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I don't want to engage in this mechanic, because in other games they're a little bit better, but in Starfield, I did not compare for like any of the companion. Stuff like the quests are very lightweight. In the Outer Worlds, those character quests like almost make the game by themselves, because they are so emotionally resonant. Those characters are so much better written. Here it is just boring. And that's a bummer, because the whole it so ties into the main quest, the companions, the main quest, constellation, all that. There's no highlights to it except for the fact that they spent a lot of money on some of those set pieces.
This I found kind of weird too. The Constellation guys, they're all such goody two shoes. You have a whole spaceship full of Captain Americas when you kind of need like a lot of Punishers or something, or a lot of I don't know. So somebody who's a little bit more edgy and can like handle a much wider variety of your actions. The amount of times I would just do something kind of slightly off color, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, I'm deleting your number and never talking to you again." And they'd leave you, and you'd be like, "Okay, I guess I'll see you later at the home base, you sourpuss."
Where you're gonna offer me some help on something a little bit later.
Then you have to placate them, and
you have to be a goody two shoes in this game. That is what this game is about: being the Starborn and being the goody two shoes and all that. And
that sucks.
It does, because you're like you look at these ships as they pass by. It's like, man, I really want to board that bank ship and steal all the money inside so that I can buy. I don't know. There's nothing you can really buy in this game anyways. So it doesn't like you can acquire so much money. And to your question earlier, Medium, this game definitely felt like I was building up a pot of money. But then I would have this pot of money, and the only thing I wanted was a ship. And then when I bought that ship, I couldn't fly it because I didn't have the cert for it. And then after that, it's like, well, I don't want anything else. There's nothing. You can buy like so many things. You can buy so many ships. You can buy houses, and they just sit empty. And there's nothing to do with them.
Nice. Yeah, your reward is in heaven. All your good deeds.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
You credit to the
and you can invite your boyfriends and girlfriends to your apartment in Cyberpunk if you buy an apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a new thing they added.
Oh.
Well, I'm gonna have to get that far, because I really like my apartment.
Feel like the clean. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Medium.
It almost made me wonder if this may be kind of a headcanon cop-out, if the really clean aesthetic and all is sort of aspirational versus being I'm not trying to make this some nitty gritty world. You're always trying to be like the even keeled person that's above all the dirt and grime and everything. Because like that seems to be sort of it's a much brighter kind of worldview in a lot of ways, and more generic, but it's also not trying to be edgy where everything is high conflict. And
yeah, because that's the vibe I get
then
from
you have a giant
Cyberpunk.
Ryujin quest line.
the Cyberpunk is like the inverse of this aesthetically and in terms of like that game is severe in its characters and its plot, and it feels so gritty and real, and I love it.
Yeah, but if you go to a strip club, it looks like a strip club. Did you go to a strip club in Starfield though? Have you seen that?
It looks like a commissary.
We're not gonna get any Bethesda titties anytime soon.
Yeah, that was fucking weird.
There were a couple of commenters on this review who were so mad that this game did not have like blood and gore and giblets and stuff like that, and it's like that does not work in this game. I know it's an M-rated game. I get it. I'm a big boy. I can see what the rating label is, but this game does not justify the need for like arms to be shot off or like any of that, and I do not get where that disconnect. Like just because it's M-rated doesn't mean that you need to be severing heads and gore everywhere and stuff like that. I don't get that at all. I think that would honestly
because
have ruined
every
the vibe.
Bethesda game for like through the last decade or so, they had that. So
Yeah,
I think more
even
like
a
the
perk
Fallout
in most of
games.
the Fallout games to have extra.
I mean,
data.
Skyrim does have like blood and decapitation and stuff like that. Like it even opens with a decapitation. So
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think that like
It's that
that's the
Fallout
vibe.
perk with all the gore.
What's that?
What's that Fallout perk that adds all the extra gore?
Oh, it's like
For
bloody disgusting or
facing
something.
oh, I always
Bloody
used it.
Bloody mess.
Bloody mess.
Maybe
Yeah,
what they're
that's the
on hunt
one.
for.
So,
It's
real quick on this one, Nick,
5% damage.
we're transitioning right to another spot here.
Yeah.
That was a lot of tedious battles, and you died over and over.
that's the part. That's the part where I wanted to talk about space combat, because that is before I went and Googled the 5 or 6 things that I needed to do to. Because as soon as I did those 5 or 6 things, I was destroying everyone. It was like just a couple of things that the game didn't teach me about that all of a sudden I was on top of the world.
Okay.
And that was me just dying over and over again. This segment right here is the end of the Terramorph quest line.
Right.
This is the one part of the game where it really is trying to go for a tone
Yeah.
that isn't like the stoic sci-fi constellation thing. I think
See, that's
it worked.
interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah,
That makes me want to play this now.
that's gonna make you sell your PlayStation 5 and get an Xbox. Is that is the Terramorph
No, not
developing
really,
out of
man.
the?
Like, let's not go that far.
No. That's not
but
happening.
but I thought this was a very interesting quest line, because it's actually like it wasn't like scary, but it was unsettling, and it's one of the rare times where the game like tries to work in a direction, and
Just wait until you
Get
finish
done.
Phantom Liberty, man.
oh yeah, I know, yeah.
I mean, you don't have to do that quest. It's choice dependent, but you really should. That's a really good quest.
For the sake of review, I'm gonna have to now.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of dialogue and like the faces and that? Because people bitch forever about Bethesda faces. Baldy, what did you think about like just interacting? I mean, we talked about persuasion being really weird.
Sure.
But just you have to spend a lot of this game talking to people.
The thing that always gets me, and it's probably because I'm a fidgety guy in real life, is I always look at the faces and see how much they blink, right? Like this lady right here blinks a couple of times every now and then, but otherwise they're just staring at you with this intensity. And they kind of do the classic Bethesda shift your foot, put an arm up, Try it. To me, it reminds me of if you're watching one of those modern day androids that's trying to convince you it's a human. It's like, look, I can approximate concern. This is my concern face. So I don't like it. But again, It's probably a nitpick. I can tell they tried. They really put some effort into it. It's got the eyebrows and the, the furrowed forehead and all this other stuff going on. It just the eyes and everything are always intense and just like staring right through you.
Yeah, absolutely. Shatsky, what did you think of just dialogue and that all together here?
Just like with the combat, it's the most advanced facial animation system that Bethesda had, but it's still a Bethesda facial animation system. That's what I'm going to say.
I think that's probably, and I will say that I agree that it's the best that they've done so far.
But that really doesn't mean a lot.
Right. So, I mean, it's the same thing with the combat, right? It's like, it's the best Bethesda's ever done. Okay, did they play other games?
Right.
Yeah.
Medium, what you got?
Yeah, it's it's in a lot of ways it's like in terms of the production value, it's the best they've ever done, but I don't think it's impressive enough based on because the problem is every time we say it's the best they've ever done, they keep releasing games like every decade. So it's not just like it's the 3 or 4 year sequel like most, the old dev cycles used to go. So it's not like it's not been outdated 3 or 4 times since.
Yeah.
So that's the big sticking point for me. To be honest with you, there's so much of this game I just skipped through. Like there's way too much setup, contextualizing why you should do a thing.
Yeah.
When the thing itself is so basic. It's just like, shut up for the love of God. Like, you're driving me crazy how much I have to hit the button. And then there's like this half-second delay on when you can hit the forward button basically to skip through it. So it's like you can't just skip. You have to
Like
sit
you
there
can in
and kind of
Cyberpunk.
wait. Yeah. And then it's just like, God. And,
I was
and there's, yeah. So
I was happy that it kind of put your primary option on the top, and you could just kind of blast your way, because Outer Worlds had that problem of you're really you're having to go through the exposition and the explanation of the universe, and this terrible corporation does this on this planet, and this has this, and it's like, God, I don't care. Let's go get the 20 beaver pelts already. But
Let's murder 10 rats in the basement.
I really need 10 rats.
You need 10 rat roaches, those annoying crabs.
Space rat roaches.
Space rat roaches.
Yeah,
Terror rats.
Yeah.
Just so long as you're not cliff racers.
God.
I'll just say this, responding to Medium about that, them releasing one game per decade. I don't know if you guys played any of the Horizon games. Those that
a little bit.
Started off on PlayStation. There is 5 years that 5 years that separates the first game from the second one, and the jump that they made in facial animation, even when it comes in side quests and stuff like that, is so huge. You don't even have to play the game; just watch it on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Side quest characters have such great facial animation that it's sometimes it's uncanny at times. It's so good that it's at times kind of creepy, but it's it really shows that if you want to improve on that, you can.
So what I'm hearing is that they took over that LA Noire tech from Team Bondi.
Maybe.
That no one has ever used again.
That no one has ever used, and it was only for very specific poses. You had to stand kind of perfectly still. And
I mean, if I can just cut in for a second, I think Hellblade 2 will probably advance this field of technology and and animation a bit, because they seem to be very, very much focused in on that.
Yeah, I think that because they had Andy Serkis working with them. I don't know if they're working on the new one, but he's been huge. Get that mocap performance stuff, like Enslaved. I thought he did something for the one before that they did for the PS3. But I remember that was a huge. That's their big technology.
Oh, Heavenly Sword, right?
Heavenly Sword, yeah, that's the one. I remember. I just remember the 0 punctuation review for it back in the day. What did you guys think of Constellation? and all of that, because I got the vibe from the promotional campaign that it was like this more of a NASA like big guild, and then it just these kind of rich people sitting around in a like day club drinking, having drinks and stuff.
It's a
like, what the fuck
space
is
country
this?
club.
The space.
Feels like a thing that, Donald Trump would, fund.
Or we'd have people fund for him. That is probably the best I've heard.
Space
of
Mar-a-Lago.
Space
Exactly.
Mars-a-Lago.
Oh God.
Even better. Way better.
It was
will-
odd
Mars
because
Tower.
at the end of the day, they're still literally sitting around while you're out gallivanting doing all this stuff, and you have to come back to it. And a few of the people left comments for that on your videos saying it really got so tiring to go do all this stuff and then warp back, load in, and loading screen, go track the people down, and you walk in and they're always just kind of standing and staring. They're not doing much.
Yeah.
And you go, hey, I found the next MacGuffin. And they go, oh, that's great. Hey, I need you to take this up to the eye and see what he thinks about it. And you're like, all right.
Yeah.
So it's always
No,
you.
they just
So-
found another idiot to do all of the shitty stuff. for them.
Exactly.
God, and I know. And then they're also like, don't drink too. We have a lot of money, but we don't have all the money. So like, go easy on the liquor. It's like, if I had a country club that you guys are inviting me to, and I'm doing all the work, I'm drinking as much as I want and taking advantage. And I didn't even use the room. Like, they give you a room.
Yeah.
And I didn't even use that either. It's just this
Nope.
static object.
I just stored a
in the
few
world.
things once. And
Didn't
never went
that
back
Sarah
from it.
Morgan chick say that the Constellation members aren't bound to any one particular morality system? Like, she says something like that at the very beginning. Like, you can do what you want, just to, like, you're not limited by the Constellation.
You know,
so.
Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
Yeah, but then when she's your, like, sidekick, like, if you, I don't know, steal an apple, she will say that you're a horrible person and you should die.
Oh yeah, no, I did that supercut in the review. I'm like, if just her just complaining about stuff. This is really unbecoming of a constellation. But if you want to do it, I will follow your lead. Just over and over again, she's just complaining about the stuff you do. It's like, why did you have to be my first companion? I guess I could have switched you, but like
The most ironic thing about this is that, like, there's just like 1 month that separates this game from Baldur's Gate 3, and
Yes.
Baldur's Gate 3 had that issue at the very, very beginning when I played it for like 120 hours. I know I'm insane. That every fucking character in that game wanted to fuck me. Like, everybody. Like, there was this guy, a druid, who I saved, and he became a party member, and like, I used to like just to go out to him and just talk to him, just to get updates from my team. And there's like this one situation where he says that, oh, you're so beautiful, and I'm like, oh, I don't like you in that way. And he's like, what? You were speaking to me so much, I thought you were interested in having sex.
that.
I was like, what the hell is going on?
That is so subtle, and I love that, because this game has none of that subtlety. It is like the romance quest. I followed the quest line for the most. I didn't complete it, but it is very much rote and boring. Like, go to this for Sarah. It was the go to this place where she crash landed, and she had to leave her squad mates behind. And they had a kid, and it's like, gosh, this is like the most boring episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation that I've already forgotten. And here it is. This is the highlight of this game. I thought that was.
Those are some boring ass characters, aren't they?
They are like so. There's like Barrett is the most exciting character in it, because he's got so many quips. He is like doesn't really give a shit. And that I just really enjoyed having him as a companion, because he just, I don't know, like, he was the most lively of them all. I don't know if you, because I don't know how many there were.
Characters in Mass Effect 2.
Yeah.
Like, everyone in that fucking game was either insane or was a war criminal or like, had some really weird science experiment past. That was certainly something, but that was interesting. Like those, side character quests or companion quests, they were awesome. Like that Warian quest that you did for the Geth guy, that was, yeah. And it like got a continuation in the third game. But in this, it's like the first time I met all of those people, I was like, okay, I just want to leave this place and just do something else. I don't want to talk to those people.
Yeah. Medium?
Yeah, just talking about side quest. Yeah, I think I've come to the same conclusion that Barrett may be the only actually interesting person to have around you. At first, I thought he was a little annoying and he talked too much, and then I was like, well, he's not constantly smacking me on the wrist.
Considering the rest of the people in this stupid little country club, like, yeah.
Sarah, I guess is their first name, right? And Sam.
I was partial to Adam Jensen myself.
Adam Jensen. I love that voice actor, but his character is a pain in my ass. He doesn't like anything I do. He was the first guy who straight up left and was like, I can't be around you right now, And left.
Oh, is he that guy with the kid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, with the cowboy hat.
Uh-huh. The Sam Coe.
I was so excited to have him around. I was like, oh my God, Adam Jensen, let's do this. Elias.
Such a great voice actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome.
But also, I can point him out
as a sidekick.
I can point him out in any role because he sounds exactly the same in every single game.
He played in the expansion.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, like he was the Penguin in Gotham Knights, and it's like, dude, that sounds exactly like Adam Jensen.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Say what you want. I really like Adam Jensen.
I don't like the stories they put him in. Really.
Jane.
Yeah.
That
still
part
better than this game.
He's also in The Expanse, which is kind of cool.
Where was he in The Expanse?
He's in like the first season or two.
Yeah,
first season.
the first season.
He's like
He
a
dies
throwaway
at the very
at
end.
one point.
I've seen
kills him.
I've seen the first 2 seasons and like
spoiler.
the first couple of 3, but I haven't seen anything beyond that.
The Expanse, you mean?
Yeah, The Expanse. Yeah, not the expansion.
Oh.
I am surprised that there has been. This game has been out for almost 6 months now, and there's been like no major content, like nothing. There's been a couple bug fixes. The game isn't crashing for me anymore.
Is there a full screen mode in it?
I played on Xbox, so there's always a full screen mode.
Okay.
But there's
I
been
remember
no.
there was only borderless, so that was annoying.
Yeah, you said you were having
I'm not
issues.
gonna lie though,
with that.
Yeah, this is a cool area right here.
This right,
I have
this
2
arena,
screens, so Oh, yeah. This looks interesting. What is this game?
This is the this is the end of the.
This is Helldivers 2.
Oh yeah. I mean, you laugh, but Helldivers 2 is damn awesome. It's like, it's so great.
There's a lot of buzz around it right
with
now.
all the robot husks everywhere and
Yeah, it's like
dilapidated look to it.
It's all of those planets are probably randomly generated, but they look good. They have like interesting, stuff to do, and like it's challenging. People can be shitty, but it just feels very good to play.
So you're saying that Bethesda could learn some stuff from?
Oh yeah, they could.
Helldivers.
They could learn a lot.
That's
the feeling I have with Starfield. This world would function really well for a multiplayer game, like with a lot of people, maybe.
Yeah.
But
especially
not
New Atlantis.
This thing. Yeah.
Especially in New Atlantis and that.
That's a good point.
There's no reason why you wouldn't be able to do that. Maybe just you would kill your CPU, but still.
Sure. Well, yeah. There's no DLSS still, right?
Oh, I think there is now.
Did they finally get it?
There was a patch that added, I don't know, 20 or 30 FPS to this game. I'm not shitting you. It's like they really did not optimize this game for NVIDIA hardware. So after that patch, the game ran pretty okay for me. So that was shocking.
I don't want to play like armchair designer, but like coming off Cyberpunk or playing Cyberpunk, I hate this robot Kaiser's on me. Like, what the hell are you doing? They spent like 7 years on this game. And you see like they spent 7 years on Baldur's Gate 3, and I realize it's channeling the energy of what the team is doing. But there are so many ways that it just feels like less than some of those other games. And in so many ways, it also feels like comfortably, this is what Bethesda's always done. They're just doing it again. Baldy, what have you thought about this?
Oh, sorry.
I'll just finish up. What do you think about the fact that so much of what this game is, strengths-wise and weaknesses, is based on what Bethesda's kind of always done? And I think that Elder Scrolls is running the same thing. It's like if they don't make Elder Scrolls exactly the way people expect, they're screwed. And if they do, they're screwed.
Yeah, it goes into one of the comments on your original review. Somebody says you pointed out, and essentially in so many words saying they never go all in on any one aspect. It's like they dabble in some of the speech stuff. They dabble in having a spaceship. They dabble in you can create your own guns. But it still feels to me like just a dressed up version of every other Bethesda title. You're, the mute main lead. You might as well be a Vault Dweller or the Dragonborn. You have a couple of people that will follow you around if you react exactly the way they want you to. It looks nice at times, but the gameplay wise, like this battle right here is just a slog. It's just constant.
With this dinosaur clipping through everything.
Yeah, as a dinosaur clips through the window.
Yeah. Was it supposed to be there, or is it just randomly there?
Those dinosaurs, I think, on this level pop up from the ground, but obviously I don't think he's supposed to be able to get through the window.
Yeah.
Oh, that one just appeared.
Well, it's Shasky, you were going to say about this being a Bethesda game, basically.
Yeah, all I wanted to say, because you mentioned Baldur's Gate 3, and I felt that I needed to come in here and like set a couple of things straight. Like the main difference between this team and Larian that made Baldur's Gate 3 is that as you mentioned, this game is out for more than 6 months right now, or maybe about 6 months, and there weren't any updates that added much to this game. And Baldur's Gate is only like a month older than this game, and it already had patches that added new epilogues, new endings, new a whole
Plus,
like
they fixed that.
Yeah, a new party at the end with all of the characters that survived. Like, so much shit gets added to that game. Even right now, it's insane. Like, it's just the difference between, making this huge Bethesda game that, some people will like, some people will hate, and Baldur's Gate 3 is like, I don't know, I really think they intended on like getting most of the RPG loving crowd to embrace this, accept this, and love this, and they succeeded. Like, people love Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah, I mean, it won awards. It won the awards that this game was potentially a shoe-in for.
Yeah. As this girl
Just about
It didn't
show.
win anything on the DICE Awards, right?
I don't, but it was like the most innovative something or another at the VGAs.
The Steam Awards.
really?
No, that was the
Steam Awards. Steam Awards.
What the fuck?
Whatever those are.
Yeah. Well, that's. And you guys have noticed, because I talk about it at the beginning of the review, of like Bethesda going out and saying, actually, you're just not understanding this game. It's not that it's bad or boring. It's just that that's what space is. It's bad and boring. Like, it's realistic.
Right.
But
Well, it's not even a contradiction.
That
It's
are actually
him basically
interesting.
saying you need to accept that that's the fun. You're seeing what we're seeing. You just need to accept that blandness is an intentionality. It's like a documentary defense.
Right.
It's and I've seen that more and more. That a lot of games think that being flat or being like really smooth is sort of like like there's a lot of friction and engagement required of you. That's somehow like a realistic thing, and it's like I don't come here to be realistic unless realistic is interesting. How are you simulating interesting realism, not just baseline realism?
Yeah.
Well,
You had
Even
boring
looking
days,
at
right?
the
You have a
recording
boring day in
here,
this
it's
game.
like,
Shkotsky?
Yeah, sorry. I was just saying that even looking at your gameplay here, it's like just this one like conversation with this one person.
Yes.
It's like a perfect showing of everything this game is. She's wearing something that's mostly gray and gray blue. She looks completely bland, like basically any NPC you could meet anywhere in any location in that game. There is some sort of a grayish bar behind her. Like this this doesn't really evoke anything in me.
It
Right.
looks like the
This
first season of
yeah,
DS9.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now,
I
It's also
nobody.
mean,
that new lighting they do in film where everything's like intentionally flat.
Yeah.
yeah.
Nobody does much in the backgrounds of these. You'll see people walk and you'll see people sit, but they're not really,
I mean, even
wiping
today,
down
if
the
you play
counter.
Skyrim, it's like there are some vistas that are still maybe not, impressive because it's like getting old
Mhm.
now, but it's like it still looks nice. It has this vibe. And this, like, it has its moments, but it's just bland and it's not it's not realistic because of being bland. It's not realistic because it's like, do graph drives exist? No, they don't. Do load screens exist? No, they don't.
Right.
Yeah, it's missing the point to say space is bland sometimes and boring sometimes. Therefore,
Yeah.
that's why this is. And it's like, yeah, but this is curated entertainment. This isn't. You turn on a
Space is
camera and
big
like
and
set it outside,
scary,
and
and
then
you can show it
you
in
saw
a
a time
million
lapse.
ways.
Yeah, it's like it's up to you. All the decisions are yours.
Yes, all of the do you want to have fun? Because that's a separate decision than some of these other things. I want to kind of entertain the conclusions that I had at the end of my review, which is, man, wouldn't it be great if you could like introduce this Factorio style set of gameplay mechanics? Like you have this outpost thing, which I never touched. I don't know if you guys touched the outpost
Nope.
stuff. I was tempted to put it in the clips, but then it's like I've got nothing to work for this. But it's like this idea of the game includes, it dabbles in the mining, it dabbles in having a facility that can extract stuff out of the ground, because when you're surveying, it's got these big areas that you can set your
Yeah.
facilities in to mine stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
But what if
There's
you
no
could turn that
reason
into
to.
an industrial life? You could become the fast fashion empire
Yeah.
of the Starfield, but you can't. It doesn't amount. You don't even use the stuff. I mean, you could craft sandwiches, you could make stuff, but to what end? Baldy, what do you think if there was more, less Bethesda and more like open world, or maybe there are some other ideas you thought like as you're playing this game where it's like, man, I wish this game did this.
I think this kind of goes to that other point where we're talking about they tried to jack of all trades, master of none. I think had they let you flesh out the physical room, and I know that you rented that room and decorated it a bit, or you bought, like your player domicile, or maybe even your ship, right? And you could do stuff on there. You would have more of a reason to live on board your ship and use the processor or use the workbench. And yeah, maybe you could then set certain things in motion. I tried that briefly with my little homestead area of, can I mine this and then walk away and come back and have it give me tanks of, I want to say helium or something like that. And it was an okay idea, but you're right, it wasn't a whole lot there. I wish there was more that you could do on that. And then also for the cargo system was kind of great. Like you were supposed to, in theory, be able to put multiple outposts on different planets and then I think transport the goods in between. But
Yeah,
I
that's a
couldn't
Plylink
figure it
thing.
out. Yeah, I couldn't figure it out. So I just skipped it all. I think I would have really have preferred to had a giant spaceship that I lived out of, as that was like my home and my base. So you could radio back when you completed a thing, you could sell stuff, pick up or whatever. I think that would have been a lot of fun at the end of the day. Hey, let's head back to the ship. I read Expanse. I didn't watch any of the show. I read a lot of the books, and they did that. Like they would be in a port or something, and they'd still sometimes stay on the ship. And to me, that would be kind of like the modern day equivalent of those dudes who live in a van or have a giant bus they've converted, so you can drive it around to take care of your business, but you're also self sufficient. I think that would have been a fun element to include in the game.
Medium, what do you think? Shikotsky, what do you think?
Could you repeat the question?
What do you think
'Cause
about
I didn't-
adding the more open world, more like interactive components to it, like more of a Factorio where you actually can do more stuff with this, because the game is very static. It's a very static game.
I mean,
and you have to play by its rules.
I'm very much into Satisfactory, so you're just what you're saying is basically like just it's perfect in my opinion, but it would really have to be justified in some way, because in games like Satisfactory, it's like there is a reason why you do things and why you want to do things. It's like, first of all, it's fun to do them. Like, it's fun to unlock a new tech. It's fun to build another part of your factory and stuff like that. But in this game, there doesn't really seem to be like an inherent reason to do anything. Like, it's in a way, it's very open. It allows you to do anything, but at the same time, you realize that like the only things that are fun to do are those very specific elements of the game. So adding this whole layer of like this survival or factory building layer on top of it would be fun, but I don't think many people would even like interact with it in any way. Like, we don't
Unless at
really
a point.
interact. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
sorry.
the outpost system doesn't really have a point in my mind, but maybe to some people it does. I don't know.
There are
Real
people
quick,
who like really spend a lot of money on the output, but those are obviously exceptions.
Hey, while this quest is up, just real quick. So you're trying to get some merch or something that has been impounded, right?
Yeah.
You can speech check the guy, or you basically have to, I think you can kill him and get his key. You could pickpocket him, get the key, or lockpick the door, right? That's it. I spent probably 20 minutes trying to jetpack all around this building, looking for a Deus Ex style vent to smash or some way to creep in or some other thing to hack, anything else to do. But at the end of the day, if you fail this speech check, you have to get the key off his body. And I was disappointed that was it. I was like, that was a missed opportunity in the big city, quote unquote, where you have all the other buildings and all the other things that you could have done. That was all they gave you to do.
Yeah.
Imagine
Medium?
if you could just smash the window behind him.
Yeah,
That would. No, these are space windows. These are high grade
almost wonder if
space
there was
windows.
Sorry, good.
Go ahead, Medium.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Like talking about the windows, I almost wonder if it would have been a good way, since they kind of procedurally generate everything else, to kind of make the procedural generation part of the mission completion. Like you may have the same types of interaction points, like windows or vents or something. Now, obviously, that makes a giant world kind of annoying. But if they mass produce that kind of interaction, it makes it a lot easier to digest for the technical side of things. To where you kind of know, oh, if this guy says I can't come in, I know there's probably going to be a vent or a window or something like that.
And here's
I
me
kinda feel
looking
like
for a vent or
Yeah.
something to
Like,
try
I
and get
got way up there on the roof.
If they
I
mass
walked all
produce that
over
kind
it.
of thing where it's predictable, that would actually make it more teachable and learnable. And it may be a little more generic, but at least it's there. It's not just like a gate.
Yeah. But to like even H Bomber guy's comments about like Human Revolution, where there's always a vent, that like that would get really tiresome. What do you think about a more dynamic universe medium? Because like we were talking about with
I kind of feel like
go ahead.
it's part of its allure, like in a way, because like I remember when the first time we tried to do this, I was talking a lot about how the very thing that pissed me off at first was the thing that kind of made it like a comfort game. Like it was something I would just fall back into. It's very easy rhythm. You're just kind of, fast travel, run, click, shoot.
Yeah.
Click back to the thing, click through all the dialogue options. Oh, nice. Okay, credits, XP, whatever. And it was sort of a pleasing, frictionless rhythm in a lot of ways. And that was kind of like why it was appealing. But it also kind of goes back to, well, that's fine if it's just somebody's personal experience. That's what they use it for. Like that's a point in the game's favor, but is it really like good sign from if you were the person making the thing? Does that necessarily like a compliment in some ways? And I don't think it is in the sense, if we're going to take it real seriously, if it's important enough to care about, I would say yeah, we probably want something more out of it than that. And it may just be that like this problem I've seen with like Sony exclusive games. It's kind of a weird analogy, but it's like if the game is so produced and so constantly stopping and starting to tell you a story, it's kind of like the mode the game is in it gets in its own way. So Starfield is sort of truing everything up, making everything feel really good, whereas a lot of the previous games didn't feel as good to play, other than maybe Fallout 4. Like once that clears up and everything's so responsive and snappy, you kind of were like, okay, cool, that part's cleared up. That's not the problem anymore. Where's the engagement? Where's the friction going to come from?
Right.
And it's almost like everything else is a little too smooth. Like it gets in its own way. Its strength it makes it so obvious where there's no, like everything's like a chest high obstacle. It's really easy to get over.
Right.
It doesn't require much ingenuity. So yeah, that was kind of the problem for long-term entertainment that I ran into.
I think you bring up a really good point, because you brought this up in the Discord. Is that this is a game that you can still kind of pick up even if you've set it down for a bit, and just you can get into it. So many games, and Shkatsky, you mentioned Horizon. They just keep giving you so many mechanics. I remember that tutorial for Horizon for that first game I played for, I don't know, like 5 hours or something, and it's still tutorializing stuff. And so I've got that vibe now where I can't go back to that because there's so much stuff that I have to remember. I have to remember, like what the hell is going on. And Starfield in its own way is like, I don't need to have all that overhead because the game is kind of just what it is. I don't need to I don't need to be in this space as much. I can pick it up and kind of just do whatever I want. But I also think that's a limitation. We talked about the structures earlier, about how people are complaining, like you have these prefab structures that you keep running into over and over and over again as you're going across these randomly generated planets. And in my headcanon, it's like, well, they mass produced these and then just plopped them down.
Right.
But I totally get, like, whether you're in a planet nearby or a planet on the other side of the Starfield and you run into the same thing, it's like, the fuck are you doing? Like, what's going on here? We have a 5-minute warning.
Prefabs. Oh, sorry.
No, so we've got a 5-minute warning here. We'll start off with Shatsky. What are your final thoughts on Starfield now that there's been some time on here?
As a person that played 26 hours of it, so not as much as probably you guys, and I didn't really pursue the main quest all that much, neither did I do any of the faction quests that I now kind of regret because I kind of want to see that terror morph thing.
Mm-hmm.
My thought is that this is not a bad game. Like I wouldn't call it this classic IGN 7 out of 10 experience that's like, it's good, but it's not for everyone, or like,
a 3
it's good,
out of 5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more like, maybe let's not, go into scores and stuff like that. It's more like, this is if every Bethesda game is an experience for like this particular group of players, this game kind of wants to be that, but isn't. It's like every Bethesda game that I played had this particular rhythm to it. Like the first playthrough of any Bethesda game that I ever had was like, I go out and I find something that interests me, and there's always something that interests me, and I don't give a fuck about the plot no matter what it is. Sometimes I finish it, sometimes I don't. But, I just, I follow Todd Howard's teachings, and I just go and scale up that mountain. And in this game...
Really quick. Medium, 60 seconds.
Yeah. Like I say, it's not a bad game. I think it's definitely got its modes and its times where it's better than anything else. It's kind of, to me, become this space in between game, no pun intended, where it's like if I'm playing something really intensive, I like to take a break and play something with Starfield because it's everything works. It's pretty simple to pick up and play. I do kind of worry that it's the one game, kind of piggybacking what Shkotsky was saying, that has the least personality of anything they've ever made. It's got it's as it's as smooth as the moon and the sky is type of thing. It doesn't have a whole lot of friction or edges or texture to it in a lot of ways, and that it seems intentional, like it's trying to appeal to the masses, and in a large way it does. It is, like I say, easy to pick up and play, but it has probably the least amount of staying power of any world they've ever come up with as a result. So it's kind of a nice high for a little bit, but it will probably burn out faster than it's not going to have all the inside jokes, I don't think, that any of the other games have. There's just not enough particularity to what people say and do, and the nature of the quest and the water cooler moments that you're going to have as a result, I don't think.
Right. Hey, Baldy, 60 seconds. What you got?
To me, it is that classic 3 out of 5. Overpromised, underdelivered. It looks fine. If you want a game where you can run and shoot, or if you've got the Game Pass, by all means, play it. That's what I did. That was my main reasons for having it. Totally worth the $10 monthly fee on the Game Pass. But if I bought this, I'd be disappointed, especially as some of us, Shotsky had pointed out with Baldur's Gate 3 and with the content, with the other stuff, what Medium just said about the longevity, I agree completely. So it's a fine game for what it is. But coming from Bethesda, I wanted so much more.
Well, I want to thank you three for sticking out for this entire... I tried to pick 6 segments that were kind of exemplary of what this game was. And I don't need to talk about my opinion because I spent 2.5 hours doing it. You can watch that video, and hopefully you watched it before you watch this. But I'm glad you guys were able to sit with me and talk about this game kind of after the fact. I hope they make this game better. I hope they're sitting back there and they're doing like some... Because they have an expansion pack coming, Shattered Space or whatever it is. But I really hope they do some massive thing where they really just fix the game. And maybe or just give it an identity, as you guys were talking about, giving it an identity, giving it something that makes it pop and stand out. So we've got 10 seconds here. What a video. Thank you, guys.
Well done, sir.
Well done. Thanks for the chance.
It's fun to chat with you guys.